Hello, Virgo. Your birthday isn't just a date on a calendar. And somewhere in you, underneath the plans, the cake, the people asking what you want to do, you already know that. You felt it building. This particular turn around the sun feels different, heavier in some places, lighter in others. Like you're standing at the edge of something you can't fully name yet, but your body recognizes it. Your nervous system has been quietly preparing for it for months. So before the noise of that day arrives, before the notifications, the calls, the performative celebrations, let's sit in this moment together, right here, right now. Because what might be moving toward you deserves to be received with your eyes open, not with fear, not with desperate hope, but with the kind of clear eyed presence that actually lets good things land. Birthdays have this brutal psychological function that nobody talks about. They force a reckoning, not the kind that arrives with dramatic music, the quiet kind, the kind that shows up at 2 a.m. the week before, when you're lying in the dark and you start doing that mental inventory you didn't ask to do. What did I build this year? What did I let go? What am I still carrying that I said I'd put down? What do I actually want? Not what I'm supposed to want, not what looks good, not what would make sense to explain to other people, but what do I actually want? That inventory is uncomfortable. And it's also possibly the most honest conversation you'll have all year. Because here's what the energy around your upcoming birthday might be pointing at, and I want you to stay with this rather than rush past it. You may be closer to what you've been building toward than the evidence currently suggests. Mm. And that gap between where you are and where you can feel yourself going, that gap is doing something to you psychologically. Mm. It's creating a specific kind of tension, the kind that feels like frustration on the surface, but is actually excitement that hasn't found its exit yet. And that distinction matters because frustration contracts. Excitement, when you let it breathe, expands. What might be coming, and I'm choosing that word deliberately, might, because this is your life and not a script written without your participation. What might be arriving in the weeks surrounding your birthday could involve a shift in how you're seen, not just by others, by yourself. And those two things tend to move together. When you begin to see yourself differently, when something clicks internally about your own value, your own direction, your own capacity, the external world has a way of reorganizing around that new frequency. Uh, Not magically, not because the universe is handing you a gift, but because you start making different choices. You start walking into rooms differently. You start responding instead of reacting. You start saying yes to things that align and no to things that don't, with less guilt, less explanation, less apologizing for having standards. This reflection invites you to consider what belief about yourself might be on the verge of breaking open. Not breaking down, breaking open. What limited story have you been telling yourself about what you're capable of, what you deserve, what's actually possible for you that might be reaching the end of its shelf life? Because birthdays, psychologically, are permission structures. They give us social and internal license to reassess, to say, okay, that chapter is done. What's the next one? Mm. And most people waste that license by focusing exclusively on what hasn't happened yet, what they don't have, what they're behind on, according to some timeline they absorbed from someone else's life. But the people who actually use this threshold well, they ask a different question. They don't ask, why haven't I arrived yet? They ask, what have I been becoming? And they let the answer surprise them. You've been becoming something quietly, consistently, even in the periods that felt like standstill, especially in those periods. Something was being forged, patience you didn't know you had, um, clarity that came from having to sit with ambiguity long enough to stop being afraid of it, strength that only gets built when the comfortable options are temporarily unavailable. You might not have the language for all of it yet, but it's there. It's in the way you handle things now versus how you handled them a year ago. It's in the conversations you no longer have because you finally decided your peace was worth more than being right. It's in the relationships you quietly let dissolve because you stopped pretending they were feeding you. That's not stagnation, that's editing. And editing, done honestly, is one of the most courageous things a person can do. Now, let's talk about what might actually be shifting concretely in the energy around your birthday window. Because this isn't just about introspection. What's possibly moving in your external world right now has a texture to it. It feels like doors, not dramatic, cinematic doors swinging open with light pouring through. More like the slight, almost imperceptible give of a handle that was stuck. You've been pushing on something, maybe a professional situation, maybe a relational dynamic, maybe a creative project or a financial goal or a version of your life that you've been trying to build in conditions that weren't quite ready to support it yet. And what might be arriving possibly in the form of a conversation, an opportunity, a piece of information, or even just an internal shift in your own readiness is the sense that the resistance is loosening. That doesn't mean everything is about to be easy. Easy is overrated and honestly a little suspicious. What might be coming is something better than easy, something that feels earned, something that lands with the specific satisfaction of a thing you worked for, even when the work was invisible, even when it looked from the outside like you were just waiting. You weren't just waiting, you were preparing. And there is a monumental difference between those two states that most people never learn to feel from the inside. This reflection invites you to consider, what would you do differently in the next 30 days if you genuinely believed that the momentum was already moving in your direction? Not hoping, not manifesting, but actually structurally believed it the way you believe in gravity, the way you believe the sun will rise. What decisions would you make from that place? What would you stop second guessing? What would you finally begin? Because here's the psychological trap that this particular birthday energy might be exposing in you. The habit of waiting for confirmation before committing, waiting to see if the opportunity is real before investing energy in it, waiting to feel certain before taking the step, waiting for someone else to validate the direction before trusting your own compass. And that habit, which probably served you at some point, which probably kept you from making impulsive decisions that cost you, might now be the exact thing creating the delay you're frustrated by. Because at a certain level of awareness, certainty doesn't precede action. Certainty is built through action. You don't wait till you're sure. You move, and the moving teaches you what's true. So, what might this birthday season be asking of you? Not on a grand, life altering scale necessarily. Sometimes the most significant shifts are the quietest ones. It might be asking you to make one decision you've been delaying, to have one conversation you've been avoiding, to invest in one thing, a skill, a relationship, a version of yourself that you've been telling yourself you'll get to later. Later is a place where potential goes to become regret, and you are too close to something real to keep choosing later. There's also possibly something in the relational field around your birthday that deserves attention. Not necessarily romantic, though, that could be part of it, but relational in the broader sense. The people in your orbit right now, the ones who show up, the ones who go quiet, the ones who suddenly resurface, they might be carrying information, not about themselves, about where you are in your own evolution. Um, because the people we attract and repel at any given moment are often a fairly accurate reflection of the frequency we're operating at. And if you're noticing shifts in your social landscape recently, people falling away, new people appearing, old connections either deepening or revealing their limits, that's not coincidence. That's your energy sorting itself out, and it tends to accelerate around threshold moments like birthdays. Pay attention to who celebrates you, not performatively, not who shows up for the cake and the photos, but who celebrates the you that exists on a random Tuesday, who acknowledges your growth without needing you to shrink back down to the version of you they first met, uh, who can handle your expansion without making it about themselves. Those people are rare. And if you have even one of them, even one that's something to receive with genuine gratitude, not everyone does. This reflection invites you to consider who in your life actually sees you, not the curated version, not the capable, competent, holding it together version, but the version that's uncertain sometimes, that's tired sometimes, that wants things it hasn't said out loud yet. And when was the last time you let yourself be seen that way, not as a liability, but as a whole, complex, still figuring it out human being who is worthy of love and support in that state, not just in the polished one? Because what might be coming around your birthday underneath all of it, beneath the shifts and the opportunities and the relational recalibrations, is an invitation to stop performing your life and start inhabiting it, to stop optimizing for how it looks and start feeling how it feels, um, to stop measuring your progress against external markers that were never calibrated to your specific path anyway, and to start, maybe for the first time in a long time, trusting that the direction you're moving in is correct, even when the destination isn't fully visible yet. You are not behind. You are not too late. Uh, you are not the exception to the possibility of things working out. You are a person at a threshold with more capacity than you've been giving yourself credit for, in a moment that might be asking you to finally act like it. That's not a small thing. That's actually everything. The power is yours. It always has been. So go into this birthday however it looks, however it feels, whether it's quiet or loud, whether it matches what you imagined or surprises you. Completely go into it knowing that what you've built in this past year is real. That who you've become is worth celebrating not just on the day, but in the ongoing, imperfect, absolutely sufficient dailiness of your actual life. And that what's coming, whatever form it takes, is meeting a version of you who is ready. Uh, Even if you don't feel ready, even if the readiness is still assembling itself, take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Drop in the comments what's the one thing you're leaving behind as you step into this new year of your life. I genuinely want to know. And what would you do first if you woke up on your birthday already believing everything was moving in your favor? Let's build that vision together in the comments. Happy almost birthday. For real. Take care of yourself tonight. See you soon.